I'm Peggy Anne Salz at Think Mobile, and I'm here on behalf of BNet TV and MSearch Groove. And I'm really pleased to be speaking with David Berkowitz, who is Director of Emerging Strategy and Emerging Media and Client Strategy at 360i. David, we were on a panel together, and you have a lot to say about social media. So why don't we just start off with your impressions from where you just were, which is South by Southwest?
Yeah, I mean, what was amazing about South by Southwest was to see all of this mobile search and mobile media in action, and it was useful too. You have all these early adopters there who are just actively, everyone's got one or two mobile devices on them, and everyone's looking to these to see, okay, where's the next thing going on? What food's good? Are there lines somewhere? And so to get these immediate impressions and have mobile really informed decisions has been huge.
So, I mean, you also, of course, advise your clients. So what are you telling them about embracing mobile or more embracing social media and mobile, and what do you see as the challenges there?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple ways to do it because, one is that the tools are getting increasingly easier to help these creators, produce more content to share it. And so there are a lot of opportunities now where before it might have been like, oh, I'm going to create a Flickr group or something like that. Now it's, okay, why don't you have some kind of application where you can make it easy to share online or sponsor some other application that's already doing that and have the media spread through Twitter or Facebook or all these other channels out there. And so it's just getting so easy to make that possible now, which is really exciting.
Well, you also had on the panel, which was interesting, you had some examples of, where we wouldn't really look for content. We're also seeing that search is content, so maybe you'd like to elaborate.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's also fascinating is that, you look at how local search is playing into mobile and all of this, and so stuff is just bubbling up like crazy where people are sharing where they are, what they're doing, they're taking pictures while they get there. I mean, there were mom bloggers taking pictures at Target and CVS and places that one necessarily wouldn't think exciting enough to go and do a whole story on, but they're sharing what's there and broadcasting sometimes with hundreds or thousands of people, and then others can go and look up what's being said about this. And so this is where marketers really need to start paying attention and seeing what's being said about them in some unexpected channels.
If we're looking at the strategy of social media, I mean, is it really just what we're hearing, which is the Twitter and Facebook, which seem to be sort of, their prerequisites now? Or, I mean, you're following stuff on the cutting edge. David, what are you fearing?
Yeah, well, I mean, Twitter search is still a must. It's only getting bigger. You're seeing like 50% growth month to month in some cases. So it's huge. And you've got to look at the mobile social implications of Facebook and some of these other big players. But you have some of these applications like I talked about Whirl and Foursquare today, and there are plenty others like Looped and Bright Kite, and that this is where people are talking about brands and also in this, in the moment, and this is where they are, this is what they're doing, and this is making an impact. So I think there's also going to be more of a push on the search side to look for not just what's being said about a brand or a place, but what's being said now or really recently, as opposed to some review that was posted 8 months ago that may or may not matter anymore.
So that's really a challenge because we're talking about a little bit of sentiment monitoring and some tracking there. What are you then advising? Because one thing is monitoring it and finding out about it. Of course, it would be great if it could be preemptive every now and then before something gets out. Is there anything you could advise?
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, a lot of the stuff that's happening there, if it's getting big, usually it's because it's spreading through other channels. And so still, right now, monitoring some of those other things like we talked about, like Twitter and Facebook, will help cut off anything if it gets big in a certain application. But the search on these other apps are getting a lot better and a lot more powerful, and that's when I think we're going to see it make an even broader impact, especially as some of these consumer reviews also start bubbling up in the major search engines like Google and Yahoo. When that helps inform what people are looking for, and it's not just a map that appears but a review that was posted yesterday, then you better be watching what's being said and see if there's a way that you can really connect with consumers and maybe even encourage those who had good experiences to post more content about it.
That was my next question, because of course the first thing you think of with brands is, okay, control it just a little bit in case it gets out of hand, but the other way to look at it is to say encourage it, channel it, cultivate it. Is there anything beyond just sponsoring something as an, how can a brand, I guess the question is, how can a brand be part of the conversation without actually monopolizing the conversation?
Well, I think one of the really great discussions that's happening here is that, bridging the real world to the digital and the mobile. And so, when you see things like if you're a restaurant, the end of any meal in a half-decent restaurant, you're getting some comment card. Now it's like, well, what if you shared this via mobile and make it really easy to do so? Then that kind of thing, it's just changing essentially how that feedback loop happens. But consumers will be often very happy to do so, especially if they had a really good experience or a really memorable one. You may even note that when you're serving something like, I know these are the kinds of preparations that you may even want to take pictures of for the folks back home, and that kind of thing, because this is happening already, but facilitating it just can make it all the easier, and especially to speak to those who are already with you there.
It's very interesting that your search for a great place to eat steak or a barbecue, that's like turned into now probably like indirect advertising.
Yeah, well, I commented about some great steak place that I actually heard about from word of mouth, and someone adapted that to say best barbecue, and so now that's being able to fuel so many other discussions. Even when I didn't necessarily tag it properly, someone made it even easier to look for because I was talking about steak in Austin, and someone's talking about the best barbecue at South by Southwest, and then it gets really powerful for anyone else who's looking. And if you do a search, you see another restaurant come up too. So it's you've got a couple choices, and it's great for the consumer now. Can make a very informed decision, and I think it will be good for marketers too, who are able to work with it.
And possibly good for you when you go back next time, right? They'll give you give you a free meal.
Oh, I sure hope so. Even the taste of that will be great.
Well, thank you, David, for BNet and for Search Groove. I'm Peggy Anne Salz.